Open it up for public comment. This is comment that consider the product and drive.
Oh, hold on.
Somebody does.
Cassie is saying she can't hear the voices in the room. Is everybody's microphones on?
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear us now, Tessie? Yes, much better.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll just say it again. Welcome everybody to the Lower Gwinnett Township Board of Supervisor meeting for Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. The board did not meet prior to today's supervisor meeting and executive staff. I opened it up for public comment, for citizens' comments, concerns, or questions for items not on the agenda. Does anybody have anything?
No.
No? Okay. Very good. 1 second. Okay. First up on the agenda is consideration for appointments to the Environmental Advisory Committee. And the three, I don't see a memo. Wait a minute. There isn't a memo. Yep. Yep. So the three individuals that we're considering today are Robert Sawyer, Carly Burns, and Maureen Nunn. The administrative committee did meet with all three, and we are making a recommendation for them to be appointed to the Environmental Advisory Committee. Are there any questions from the board?
None.
Bessie, have any questions? No? Okay. Any questions or comments from the public?
Just one thing I want to note is that one of the terms is there's 2 years left. So we'll just pick one of them to have 2 years, and the others will have 3 years, I think. That will.
Correct.
Maureen Nunn is being reappointed. She'll obviously be one of the people getting a 3-year term.
Yeah, I think we had identified Robert Sawyer for 2 years. No questions from the public. With that, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Maureen Nunn, Carly Burns, and Robert Sawyer to the Environmental Advisory Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Can't. Tessie, did you vote? Are you,
Can you hear me?
we can hear you now.
I'm going to abstain because I do not know the individuals that we're voting on.
Okay. Very good. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Next up is a consideration for the approval for a speaker series at the Wissahickon Trail Audubon Center on behalf of Lower Gwinnett Township EAC. And that was included in our board packet. It was a memo from our Park and Rec director kind of outlining how the Director of Engagement for Wissahickon Trails reached out to the EAC and wanted us to partner with Wissahickon Trails and Mid-Atlantic Audubon to plan an event to host a local author and a panel on conservation. The details of the event were included, and they were looking for a contribution of up to $300 to support and participate in the event hosted by the Wissahickon Trails and Mid-Atlantic Audubon. Are there any questions from the board?
None.
You have any questions, Tessie?
No.
Okay. Any questions from the public? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve a contribution for the speaker series with Wissahickon Trails and Audubon Center on behalf of the Lower Gwinnett EAC in the amount of $300. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you guys so much. Next up is a consideration for the authorization to advertise an ordinance amendment, adding intersections to locations for stop signs in chapter 458 of the Lower Gwinnett Township Code. Included in our board packet was a memo from our chief outlining the need for these stop signs to be identified within our ordinance. Are there any questions from the board?
No.
Any questions from the public?
No.
So I'd like to make a motion to authorize the advertisement of the ordinance amendment, adding those intersections to the locations that are outlined in the memo in chapter 458 of Lower Gwinnett Township Code. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up is a financial report, and it's the review of our 2024 year in review. I'll turn it over to Melinda.
I handed out another sheet. That wasn't in the board packet. That we were able to see it. I can give you a copy. In the office. Can everybody hear me? Okay. So I was asked last time, so in your packet, what is the December and is the year-end packet and also through February 28th. So I'm just going to state that the packet through February 28th, I think everything is copacetic, not much is going on. We don't have a lot happen in January and February, but if you have any questions, I can answer those. But I really wanted to go over the 2024 year end. We are still under audit. So far, we don't have any journal entries, but I think they have till sometime in April. So I don't know if there's going to be one. So this is preliminary. But the reason I'm giving you this sheet is because a couple of different things occurred in 2024, and I wanted to sort of separate them out so I could tell you where we stood with regards to budget and not budget. So if we look at the operating funds in total, you can see that we have the surplus or use of reserves prior to any transfers or any anomalies, and that's 1.9 million is the surplus in that. Then we had budgeted 2 transfers. The 165 was between operating funds, so they wash. And the other one was $800,000 that went to the capital reserve fund. So if we look at the surplus before any prior year reserves being transferred out, if you remember, I talked about that 1.2 million at the beginning of the year that we transferred in January from a prior year. So that wasn't budgeted for, and I'm taking that out because it really doesn't reflect anything that occurred in this year other than the transfer. So we're looking at $1.1 million as a surplus. And if you look over. Oh, and you know what? You don't have that on your sheet. Okay, so I have it compared to budget. I didn't put that on the slide I gave you, but on the handout, you should see the 2024 budget. Our budget for the operating funds was a surplus of 445,000, okay? And I'm showing 1.1 million. So I went back and I said, okay, so what were those changes in there that occurred, okay? And so this is what we're looking at. So in the operating funds, our interest was higher than what we had budgeted for, our interest income by $60,000. Our overall wages were lower by 186,000. Our insurance, which is health, property, and workers' comp, it was lower by 249,000. Now let me explain why that was lower. So we have that choice of opt-out for people who choose to not carry the health insurance. And when we were doing the budget for 2024, and we had budgeted, I think it was $80,000 for that. I put that in the budget, and also Mimi put that in the budget in a health opt-out line. So that was in the budget twice. So that was 80,000. Plus, we had 2 police officers that were starting, and when I put them in the budget, I put them in not knowing it's family. And what happened was they're single and they opted out. So that saved us a lot of money. And then another officer who was family on our health insurance in 2023 decided to opt out. So that saved us 60%. So that's why there's that swing in the insurance. And then also, we had budgeted for $1 million to go to the capital funds, and we only transferred over 800,000. So when you add up those items, that's about 695,000. So that makes the difference there of why we were higher in the surplus by about 600,000. Then you can see, I show the prior year reserve that we moved out, and we moved that into the capital funds. And so when it comes down, we're showing an $85,000 deficit, but that is purely from that 1.2 million being counted as an expense that went out. Does anybody have any questions about the operating funds budget?
So just in general, I get that those three officers or those three individuals, employees that chose not to take the health insurance, but they'll have an opportunity every open enrollment.
Every open enrollment, yes.
Okay, so will
Yep.
we continue to budget as if they will, or will?
So when I do the 2025 budget, I base it on what we did in 2024. So if
Okay.
they had opted out, I put them in as opted out. They
Okay.
can change, okay,
Yeah.
but that's why there was a difference in the budget.
Okay.
Any other questions?
And is the expectation, I guess, that our interest rate, like as you said, we got over $60,000 more than we anticipated in interest income? Is
Yeah, so.
that expected
that-
to continue?
So we do it at the current interest rate, but it's really how fast we spend the money or how quickly we get it in. So if we get some grants or things like that, that we didn't count on coming in so quickly and they sit in there, that's where that interest income comes
Okay.
from. Huh? Well, yes, yeah. So that can vary. We try very hard, but it really depends on whether the money's sitting in the accounts or not. And I think I had put in the December memo, it was either that in the February. So when we have a lot of our monies in Pliget, and Pliget offers both a class and a prime, and each one of our funds has a class and a prime. Prime gives you more of a percentage rate than the class. So now I am consciously going in and I'm clearing out the due to, due froms, and I'm trying to keep everything in prime so that we get the additional interest, just so you know. Okay, then with regards to the sewer funds, so if you look in green there, the surplus or deficit before any prior year change or the bond issuance, and there was a transfer in there that went from the sewer operating to sewer capital, so they washed through. Okay, but we were looking at a $32,000 deficit. But on the budget, our budget for the 2024 year was an $813,000 deficit. That's because we have the sewer operating with the sewer capital, so try to keep that in mind. But there was a swing of $780,000 where we did better. That was mainly from, so we had higher interest of 56,000. The Ambler capital projects that we pay for that comes through from Ambler, we had budgeted $1 million. They only did 750,000. So that saved us 250,000. The employee benefits were lower by 72,000. That's because a lot of our benefits with regards to health insurance, 25% is charged to the sewer. So that's why that is there. And then we had sewer capital improvements in our sewer capital. They were lower by 350,000. And that's when I look back at it, the roof replacement, 25% of that did not occur. And there was a budget for 250,000 for the open door pump station, and we didn't complete that. So that's why we're off budget with that.
Okay.
Any questions about the sewer funds?
No.
Me.
Okay, so the capital funds. So if you look at the capital funds, they're in green. The surplus or deficit before the prior year reserves or the bond issuance was 1.6 million. And our budget was actually a deficit of 1.6. But that's because projects move. So the difference in the capital funds was $3.2 million. So I looked into that to figure out where that came from. So interest was higher by about 153,000. We did not do in the traffic impact, the Terwellen signal and the master arm was a budget of like 658,000, like that we saved. We did a little bit, but not all of it. It was budgeted for much more than that. We had the sale of Ingersoll House. That made up 781,000. Okay, that wasn't budgeted for. Improvements to the township property. We had $350,000. We didn't do the old Bethlehem Pike Bridge replacement. we started it and I have some, but 350,000 that was budgeted for, we didn't spend. The old Bethlehem, culvert, we didn't do that also. We had some monies that we spent in there. We have, but not all of it. Then there were park improvements of about 551,000, which was the pickleball courts. They weren't going to be at the YMCA. They might have been somewhere else, but we didn't do those at all. And we didn't do a lot of the Ingersoll Park improvements that we were going to do with, I think, the concession stand and things like that in the bathroom. And then in the stormwater fund, we saved 300, not saved, but we didn't spend 319,000, and that was for the Houston flood study and the stream bank restoration. And the multimodal intersection came under budget by about 386,000. So that totals the 3.2, okay, which was the switch in that. And then if you put in the prior year reserves and everything, then it comes through. You saw that 1.2 million actually went into the capital reserve account, all right, along with the bond issuance. So the bond issuance went in at almost $5 million, which really swung everything, you know, differently from budget because those weren't budgeted for. Also wanted to let you know that in 2024, for the monies that we spend, they come through and they come out as what we call like an expense, but we placed in service in 2024 $4 million worth of assets. So I'm just letting you know that because that's good. So although the money went out the door, it's sitting somewhere of things that we did. And I do have a thing here so I can tell you what those are. So we had some CIP for the multimodal. The total that we placed in service was 2.6 million, but we spent 2.2 last year in 2024. So that is an asset that we put on the books. And then we had the,
CIP?
I'm sorry, construction in progress.
Okay.
So when we're doing one of these projects and it's expensed, but it's not completed, I pick it up, not on our books that you guys see, but as construction in progress. So when we do finish with it, we can add in from all the different years, the cost. So we have it on our
Right.
books. It's on the audited financial at total cost.
Okay.
So we did, the pedestrian bridge we placed in service. We have the UTV for the police, the trailer for the police. There was a vehicle that we did, the tire changer. We did roads of 382,000. We did park improvements of 420,000. And I said the pedestrian bridge. Then there was like body cameras for police, a lift gate, the Ford 550 dump, that finally came in. We had ordered that before, so just so you know. And a speed trailer, which was a replacement. So those are the things that we had placed in service. So all in all, if you look at it, we did very well compared to the budget. If you take out the anomaly of that 1.2 million and then the 5 million coming in. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't think so. It's pretty comprehensive. I appreciate this chart tremendously.
Yeah, with the budget, because that's what I would think you guys would want to know is not just how we turned out, but how was it different from what we had planned on?
Mm-hmm. I don't think I have any questions. I don't know for the rest of the board.
No, I have no questions.
Did you guys have any questions about the February, January through February?
No questions.
No.
Okay, that's really all I had. I do want to let you know that I had said that I cleared out the due to, due from accounts, and also the 2024 liquid fuels project was reported and submitted and it was signed off on. Okay, Tim Greco did that, so that's all I have unless you guys have questions.
That's it.
Nope. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Melinda. Next up is the approval of our invoice report that was included in our board packet for March 25th. Are there any questions?
No questions.
Can you see if Tessie has questions? Does it show? No questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the invoice report for March 25th, 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Included in our board packet is our township engineer report. Thank our township engineer for providing that report. Also included in our board package is our traffic engineer report for March 2025. Again, want to thank our traffic engineer for providing that report. Finally, in our board packet is the minutes from March 11th, 2025 meeting. Is there any questions or concerns from the board?
None.
Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for March 11th, 2025 meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Included in our board packet as well as the supervisor liaison reports. And staff updates is next.
Yes, we have a couple. I believe we'll start with the chief.
Beth Charlton, our police secretary, will be retiring in 2 weeks. So I wanted to let you know that May 7th will be her last day. It's a Monday. Yes, April 7th. April 7th. Monday, April 7th.
You're trying to keep her an extra month.
Yeah. So we're going to have, we'll have a continental breakfast here that morning. We'll start around 8:30. All are invited to attend that. Beth has been with the township for 38 years.
Wow.
So she'll be sorely missed, and we'll have a great celebration for her in the next week or two.
Thank you so much for letting us know, but also want to thank Beth for her dedicated service to the township. 38 years is a tremendous amount of time, almost incomprehensible. But the board in totality, even though there's a segment of the board here tonight, is very grateful for all the service that she gave to Lower Gwinnett Township. Wishing her well in her retirement. Hope that she fully enjoys it. And we're very appreciative for all that she's done for the township.
And the rest of the staff are very jealous. A couple other quick updates. So we learned in the past week or so that the township's Tree City designation was renewed. We've had this for a few years and it continued. Sandy put that together with some help from the EAC. Melinda had mentioned the Springhouse intersection project. That's just about done. We're looking at just a few loose ends, and one of them is landscaping along Norristown Road. For years, there's been promises made to residents who live back there that once the widening is done, the township would go back and take a look at whether some landscaping was needed along the trail that the township owns there. So Fred's been meeting with one of the neighbors back there, and there is some landscaping that looks like it needed. PennDOT came, I shouldn't say PennDOT, PICO came in and cleared out a whole lot of brush too, because they decided in the middle of our intersection project to move some poles because that helped. And then, of course, as part of our project, we were doing some widening to add the lanes. Between the two, there's a lot less buffer there than there used to be. So we're working on that. We'll be coming back. We will use our capital reserves to pay for that, part of the money that would have gone to that project.
Okay.
And we are working right now, Michelle is working right now on an RFP to go out for a new IT consultant, part of our shopping around our professionals. So the contract is up July 31st, August 1st. So we want to make sure we have enough time. We're required to give notice should we not decide to renew our current consultant. But they, of course, can submit for that. So we're working on that in the next week or two to get out. So we make sure we give consultants enough time to submit.
Okay. Our current contract terminates as of July 31st.
Yes.
And so there's no more support after July 31st.
If we were not to, if we just, let
Okay.
it, and I think we have to give them 30 days notice. So
Mhm.
we
Okay.
want to be able to make a recommendation, obviously before.
Very good. Any additional staff updates? Okay.
Jonathan Farrell or online, but do not have to say anything if they do not have any comments.
All right, supervisor comments, Tessie?
No comment.
Okay, Jimmy?
Just to kind of restate what you had said earlier, thanks Beth for everything she's done. 38 years is a long time to deal with everything that goes on in this township. So just thank you for everything. Excited for your next chapter in life.
That, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.